All right, good morning and happy Wednesday, everybody. Happy Fed Wednesday. My favorite kind of Wednesday. But all right, y'all, we'll jump in here. I'm running on about 3 hours of sleep, so today should be interesting. But all right, let me get my drawing tool going here. Bear with me now. Come on, Camtasia. Time to wake up. All right, cool. Record. I am nothing without my drawing tool. All right, there she is. All right, guys, we'll do our squeeze check here. And we've got plenty of squeezes to pick from. So looking at the indices here, you got a monthly squeeze on the RSP and the IWM. A little bit more bigger picture. We have a daily squeeze on the Dow and the QQQ. And then the theme of today, we've got a lot of 4-hour squeezes. QQQ, Dow Jones, S&Ps, and the RSP. And then over here on the moneymakers watch list, the big boys, Amazon, Apple, Meta, Netflix, BAC, Nvidia, all cranking out that 4-hour squeeze. And then we've got daily squeezes on Microsoft. We bought a little Microsoft yesterday. You got one in Amazon, you got one in Meta, and you got one in that Netflix. And then I'll pull up the bigger watch list here. And if we sort by the 4-hour column, yeah, we got a lot. All right, Salesforce, MRK, ABBV, Wells Fargo, Goldman, Schwab, Home Depot, BKNG, Starbucks, Coinbase, Riot, Roku, and a lot more where that came from. And then on the futures, S&Ps are flat here. Checking out the signals, we have a weekly, a daily, a 2-hour, and a 1-hour buy signal. A little bit of green up there in the garden. And then we have a 1-hour and a 30-minute squeeze. So we'll check out that 1-hour squeeze here. We'll run that through the report card. And it's pretty bullish. Pretty bullish indeed. Above the trailing stop. Good structure. We got the squeeze. We got the buy signal. We got a perfect score of 12. All the above makes for an A+ setup. And then on the NQ here, got a few more squeezes on the NQ. Check our signals here, and they're green. 2-hour. No sound. Whoops. My bad, y'all. My bad. My fault. All right, so for the folks on YouTube, I'm going to do that all over again. I forgot to turn on my mic. Like I said, I'm running on 3 hours of sleep. Okay, so as I was saying, good morning and happy Wednesday. We're doing our squeeze check here, right? And we got the Fed coming up today. So on the indices, we have a 4-hour squeeze on the QQQ, the Dow, the S&Ps, and the RSP. Daily squeezes on the QQQ and the Dow. And then on our moneymakers watch list, 4-hour squeezes on Amazon, Apple, Meta, Netflix, BAC, and Nvidia. And then a quick look at the universe, the bigger watch list. A lot of 4-hour squeezes. Salesforce, ABBV, Goldman, Wells Fargo, Home Depot, Starbucks, ARK, Coin, Riot, and Roku. So that's kind of the theme of today's session. We got the Fed, we got Powell, and we got a lot of 4-hour squeezes. And then doing our check here on the futures. S&P futures are flat. We got buy signals on the weekly, the daily, the 2-hour, and the 1-hour. And a squeeze on the 15 to 30 minute and the hourly. And if you look at the hourly, it's pretty clean. Trades above the trailing stop, good structure. The squeeze, the buy signal, all the fixins. And then the NQ, the one and only NQ. Buy signals on the 2-hour, 1-hour, 30, 15. Squeezes on the 2-day, the daily, the 4-hour, and the 1-hour. 1-hour squeeze looks pretty proper. Properly bullish. 4-hour squeeze. Let's take a peek here. Four-hour squeeze. It ain't perfect just yet. From a structure perspective, ideally we get the that 21 EMA back above the 50. Then I think is a better chance of fires to the upside. A big 3 score of 9 out of 12. Right? It does lean bullish. And then on that daily squeeze, what I would like to see here is the slingshot signal. Oh, that's the 3-day. If we can get that slingshot signal in the daily squeeze, of course, not a guarantee things go higher, but it would help the bull's case. And the reason we need that slingshot signal, that's the only thing missing. Momentum. Oh, there she is. Right on schedule. But the reason we need that is we got good structure. All right, the foundation is strong. 21 above the 50, 8 EMA above the 21 EMA, 21 trending higher, the 50 trending higher. Only thing we don't have is momentum above that 0 line. The slingshot signal can pretty much compensate for that. You're in an uptrend. You got a squeeze. You got good structure. You might have had that momentum break. If they can try to pump it back towards that 0 line, we get the slingshot. Now, as always, like any other Fed day, expect some shenanigans. Might be a little bit of back and forth. Might be some volatility. From my point of view, putting my faith in the squeezes, if you kind of step back and take that 40,000-foot view, at the moment, everything looks good for more upside. Doesn't mean we get that, but it is shaping up in that fashion. And then I do want to check out NVIDIA. Rumor is NVIDIA is a decent part of this market. It's a little bit important. This 4-hour squeeze should go hand in hand with the 4-hour squeeze in the QQQ and the SPX. QQQ fires to the upside. I think NVIDIA's got a pretty good chance of following suit. QQQ craps the bed and fires that squeeze short. You might get the same here from NVIDIA. So I think that's a pretty big one. And then a couple setups for you good people. We bought some Microsoft yesterday. Always interesting getting long ahead of the Fed, but I like the setup. I like the setup. More importantly, I like the timing. If the 4-hour squeeze in the QQQ, the SPX, the Dow, if they all begin to fire to the upside, then you take a name like Microsoft, right? Good squeeze, good signals. Those 4-hour squeezes firing to the upside typically would give something like Microsoft a little wind at its back. So we've got our daily slingshot squeeze. Good structure, good report card. We're looking for about 430, 435-ish. But again, I think it'll be a bit more of a QQQ thing. You get the QQQ pumping back towards a brand new all-time high. I think Microsoft's got a pretty good chance here at going for it. So I do like Microsoft. And then take a quick look here at Meta. I haven't Meta, but I've heard about her. I don't know why I find that so funny. All right, Meta, brand new squeeze above the trailing stop, good structure. 10 out of 12 on the big three score. You've got your lower time frame buy signals, the 15, the 30, and the 5. The only thing I'd like to get here, the slingshot. Right, you've got your house. Here's your house. You got yourself a classic colonial. Right, the foundation of your house is like the structure of the chart. If you don't have a good foundation and you happen to sit through a hurricane, your house might fall apart. The hurricane, so to say, is at breaking momentum. Down goes momentum. It cracks under the zero line. You're getting a little bit of a bear cycle. All right, so we're sitting through some 100-mile-per-hour winds. The structure never budges. Everything holds up perfectly. 21 above the 50, 50 above the 200, 21 trending higher, the 50 trending higher. When the skies can clear, all right, the hurricane comes to an end, they might want to continue that trend higher. So that's the only thing missing here would be that slingshot. Momentum being under the zero line, it's not a deal breaker. It's a deal breaker if we don't have that slingshot. You get that blue arrow, and I think you're in good shape. So I'm going to keep an eye here on Meta, and then a couple more for you. At Microsoft, you got Meta, ELV, which frankly, I'm not really too familiar with ELV. I'm not even sure what they do, but I got to like that setup a lot. Got to like that a whole lot. We got buy signals on pretty much every time frame. And then even better, check out the squeezes. It's a bit of a squeeze fest. 2-day time frame, the daily time frame, the 4-hour, the 2-hour, and the 15. So y'all know the drill. Drop down to your 15-minute squeeze. And if the 15-minute squeeze fires, that might wake up that 30-minute. No 30-minute, excuse me. The 2-hour. 15-minute squeeze fires long. That might go ahead and trigger the 2-hour squeeze. 2-hour squeeze fires long. That might go on and trigger the 4-hour squeeze. 4-hour squeeze fires, you're looking at your daily squeeze. Good structure, got the slingshot signal. And then above that, the top of the mountain, not a bad looking 2-day squeeze. So again, I'm not too familiar with ELV. I'm not sure what the sector is, not sure what they do. But as a general statement, I really don't care. It's if it's got a good squeeze, I'm going to be a bit interested. So Microsoft, Meta, ELV, and then I think we got a few here in Netflix. Yeah, brand new squeeze here in Netflix. Got the slingshot signal. And more of the same. 5-minute squeeze fires, that might trigger the 2-hour. 2-hour squeeze fires, that might trigger the 4-hour. On and on they go. And then I want to say Amazon. Yeah, we got one here in the Zon as well. Only thing missing, that little blue arrow. So there's a couple of fresh ideas. Fresh meaning they're not overbought. They're not 2 or 3 ATR above their 21 EMA. Rather, they're all back there at that buy zone. They got the squeezes, and you take it from there. Now, for a pullback idea, I've got 2 pullback ideas for you. Energy and crude oil. Over here on energy, you did have that daily squeeze. Fire to the upside. From there, we have a weekly and a monthly squeeze. My preference is buy it on a pullback. In the event such a thing is possible in this market. But that weekly squeeze calls for about 95 and change. That monthly squeeze, that bad boy calls for a push towards 100 to about 103. So there's your context. If energy pulls back, what is it pulling back into? A really good looking weekly squeeze and a really good looking monthly squeeze. If you look at a few of the energy names here, ExxonMobil, really clean monthly squeeze. You got PXD, good looking monthly. You've got Valero, the Beast, formerly known as Valero, Chevron. Not as strong, but it'll get there. I think it'll get there. And then I believe you have one over in FANG. And indeed we do. I think whenever something has a bullish monthly squeeze and a bullish weekly squeeze, you really want to look for that pullback buy. It's pulling back into good structure. It's pulling back into a buy signal. More importantly, it's pulling back into big compression. Big compression can turn into a big move. A big move can turn into a big paycheck. So I am liking energy on the pullback, and then crude oil. And right now I'm flat crude oil. Took off the remainder of my profits yesterday. Not looking like a bad idea so far this morning. Now, I don't think crude is as clean as energy. Energy's got a little bit more oomph to it, but basically the same idea. When you're buying a pullback, the question you should ask yourself is, what is it pulling back into? Am I buying a pullback into an uptrend, or am I buying a pullback into a downtrend? Am I buying a pullback into good structure? Am I buying a pullback into crappy structure? Do we got buy signals? Do we got sell signals? And then what about the squeeze? The almighty squeeze. So for crude here, in the event things do pull back a bit, it's pulling back into a beautiful daily squeeze. Nothing but green across the board. And then we got one here on the weekly. I think energy has a better looking weekly squeeze, but crude's got one as well. I mean, frankly, it's not even in the same, as far as the quality, it's not even in the same neighborhood as energy. I think energy's got a little bit more going on. Structure's a little better. You got that buy signal, so that's a little bit further along in its development. But good to know crude's got a weekly squeeze, and then I think you got a monthly. Which, again, that's a bit bigger picture. I don't think I'm going to buy calls based on that monthly squeeze today. Although what I will tell you is, bigger picture, if the monthly chart can crank out the slingshot, you might want to pay a little bit more attention. So for a pullback opportunity, watching energy, watching crude oil, for a squeeze trade, you've got plenty to pick from. QQQ, the S&Ps, Amazon, Netflix, Nvidia, Microsoft, the whole gang. And then the last pullback opportunity here that we'll take a look at, and then I'll turn things over for some Q&A. Bitcoin, the big bad Bitcoin. And a lot of speculation here. Is it pulling back because of the halving? At the end of the day, I think you look at it from an ebbs and flows perspective. The whole party started back here at that 21 EMA. And the market just kind of tends to move in a series of moves away from that 21. It'll revert back to that 21. And then with patience, you take it from there. I don't have a good trade here, though. If I want to look for an entry, I've got it where I want it. But I don't really have a setup. The signals are a bit mixed. They're neutral for the most part. And then I don't have a squeeze. A guy like me, if I don't got a squeeze, I don't really got too much to do. But I will keep an eye on that at that 21 EMA. And then as far as the crypto names, you got Coinbase, and I think that might be the best of the bunch. And we do got a couple squeezes here. A little 5-minute and then a bigger 4-hour. So take your 21 EMA from your daily time frame. That might be your launching pad. On top of that launching pad, I've got to find a squeeze, and I've got to get that multi-time frame alignment. So what about that 4-hour? I think a little bit too early. It's neutral. It's under the 21 EMA. It's under the trailing stop. And the report card says we got a 3 out of 12. I'd like to think we can do a little better than that, guys. A 3 out of 12. That's like my report card from back in high school. It leaves a little bit to be desired. But we got it where we want it. Back home to the 21 EMA. The launching pad. You get a few more buy signals. You get a couple more squeezes. That might be a spot for a buy. Let's go take a look at Riot. Okay, that looks like crap. Let's go look at Mara. No, thank you, Mara. What about MSTR? Yeah, there we go. That's a bit more like it. All right, it's a perfect daily chart in terms of the quality. In my book, it'd really be perfect if you had a squeeze. But the structure, the trailing stop, momentum, 12 out of 12. Doesn't get much more better than that. But then checking out my lower time frames, it's all quiet. 4-hour neutral, 2-hour neutral. Got it where you want it. Got to get a setup. So there's a few things for your watch list. In all honesty, I think you can capture the spirit of all of that with your 4-hour squeeze on the QQQ and the SPX. And then just keep in mind with the QQQ here, that's a 4-hour squeeze inside of a daily squeeze, inside of a 2-day squeeze. We got that juicy squeeze on squeeze action. 4-hour squeeze calls for a push into the big 450. The daily squeeze calls for a push towards 455-ish. And that 2-day squeeze calls for a push towards a little closer to 460. I think, if anything, a good target for the next few days here would be that 450. But all right, folks, that is what I got for you. Running on 3 hours of sleep. I hope it all makes sense. But any questions, anything you want to take a look at, throw it at me here in the chat, and I'll get going through. Let's see what you got. I promise, I wasn't out partying last night. I got in bed around 10, and I kept tossing and turning. Out of curiosity, do any of you have sleep paralysis? If you know, you know. So it's not very fun. The best way I can describe it is basically you wake up mentally, but your body stays sleeping. It's a little bit freaky. That kind of kept happening all night last night. I guess I got some demons to I got some demons to work through. That might be what that means. JR, thoughts on PG? Yeah, PG is a bit of a beast here. A little bit of a beast. You got a few squeezes setting up too. I'm thinking of General Electric. Yeah, GE's the beast. But as far as Procter goes, Procter the doctor, signals are a bit neutral. Which, keep in mind, that's not a big problem. To me, that just means, all right, if I'm going to call for a long or I'm going to call for a short, that's a moment in time where I'm going to be a little bit patient. Take ELV as a comparison. I can buy ELV. Out of my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, out of those 8 time frames, 7 of them print a buy signal. That only calls for one trade. Right? You buy that. Where on a Procter, it's neutral. Nothing telling me to get long just yet. Nothing telling me to get short just yet. So a little patience required, but we can take our daily chart, and that should give us a good sense of what kind of trade should I look for. If I'm in a big daily downtrend and we got sell signals, bad structure, I'm going to look for a short. In this case, it's above the trailing stop. Structure is bullish. We got a 10 out of 12, and we have a daily squeeze. So taking the context from that daily time frame, what I would ideally look for my lower time frames would be a trigger to get long. I don't really want to short a daily chart with a 10 out of 12. So from there, you shift your focus to your lower time frames. And like everything else in the market, we got a big 4-hour squeeze heading into today. And that looks pretty good. Above the trailing stop, good structure. Slingshot signal, 10 out of 12. We drop down, check that 2-hour squeeze. And that looks pretty good as well. If they can get the 15-minute print in a buy signal, the 30-minute, then I think you look for a long. Long on the Procter. Yeah. Yeah. That might be it. That might be it, Art. That might be it. ELV is health. Okay. I knew that. Mike, what's up, Mike? LUV. Love. Now, y'all know I'm a bit anti-airplane. I'm kind of anti anything that's not on solid ground. Airplanes, boats, blimps, the occasional kite. But putting my biases aside, I'd short it. Not all the way down here, but under that 21 under the 50, under that 200. If there were a bit of a rally here, I'd look to short it. Oh, Mike, you're asking what that symbol was. That was ELV. ELV. Elevator. Good morning, Rick. Good morning, Scott, Andrew, Omer. Yeah, my bad about that, guys. One of those mornings. All right, over on YouTube. Robert, what's up, Robert? DraftKings. Yeah, we've had a few folks over here in the simpler rooms looking at DraftKings, and I think for good reason. I think for very good reason. Buy signals on almost every time frame. The 5-minute, the 15, the 30, the 1 hour, the 2 hour, the 4 hour, the weekly. They all call for the same direction. Does that mean it has to go higher? No. But that gives us our clarity. I can call for timing, I can call for direction. If pretty much every one of these time frames is cranking out that buy signal. Better yet, they're doing that in a daily squeeze, which grades out pretty good here. Pretty good indeed. Above the trailing stop. Structure is bullish. Slingshot squeeze. 10 out of 12. And then you drop down to the 4. All right, so your level to break today, 44. Through 44, they can get a positive shift in the 4-hour trailing stop. And that's a great looking 4-hour squeeze. I think you look at that like a bit of a pit bull on the leash. The only thing holding it back would be that 4-hour trailing stop. If they can shift that, then I think you get the green light for takeoff. 4-hour squeeze fires. That could take you towards that 45, 50-ish target. But if that fires, they probably fire the daily squeeze. We got a daily squeeze target of 47. And then from there, you've got your 2-day squeeze. And that calls for a push towards 48-ish. So what I would try to do here, if I can build my entry in that 4-hour squeeze, and then the 4-hour squeeze fires, we are catching the push up here towards 47 and change. Oh, that's not the 4-hour. There is a 4-hour. If I can build my position in the 4-hour squeeze, catch the initial push, catch the initial breakout, for conversation's sake, maybe I make $1,000 on the initial push. From there, to my benefit, we've got that daily squeeze and that 2-day squeeze. What I might look to do is, all right, I caught the initial push. I've got $1,000 of profit to my name. Maybe I'm taking $200 or $300 of that profit, and then I'm going to buy a further out the money call based on that 2-day squeeze. 2-day squeeze can take us to about 48 and change. If I can catch the initial push, that first trade can finance another trade. I make $1,000. I take 200 or 300 of it. I go a bit further out to expiration. I'm going to buy a 48 strike call. From there, I'm in a really good position. DraftKings falls apart. My second trade's going to lose. But between those two trades, I've got a net profit. I make $1,000 on push number 1. I take 250 of that. I risk that on trade number 2. It all falls apart. Worst case scenario, I'm going to walk away with a $750 profit. Best case scenario, they keep it pushing. The daily squeeze fires, the 2-day squeeze fires. On that second trade, if I can catch that push up there towards 48, and I'm doing that with that out the money call, I might increase my overall profit by 50% to 100%. That's what I did on crude. And I really want to do more of this because it puts me in a good place mentally. I'm not stressing out about every tick. I'm not losing sleep over it. But if I think I've got a really good setup with potential, I can keep the party going where one trade finances the next. Take profits on that trade, you open up another one. So back here on crude, I'm buying calls back here. The following afternoon, I'm taking off about $1,000 of profit. I turned around, I bought $200 worth of further out the money calls. Took off the profit on that candle, rolled out to another call, and then I finally took my profits yesterday. Catch the initial push. That might turn into 3, 4, 5 trades. So yeah, I'm liking DraftKings. Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong. Yeah, Scott, I'm out of crude for now. We'll see if I regret that. I want to buy it in the mastery. I definitely want to buy it in the room together. So if we could get down here towards $80, maybe $80 and 50 cents, I think we'll do a little something there together. Yeah, Scott, good question, good observation. So, one of my favorite trading books ever, Best Loser Wins by Tommy H. You guys got to call him Tom Hugard. I can call him Tommy H. We're kind of tight like that. But I think this is like a top 4 trading book of all time. My Mount Rushmore would be Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas, Mastering the Trade by John Carter. Not sure if y'all have heard of him. He's pretty good. I like Mark Minervini's books, and then I love this one. The only thing that doesn't work for me, to your point, Scott, Tom doesn't have targets. Meaning, if Tom were to buy crude oil, he's not going into that looking for a push to 81. He's not looking for a push into 82. His thinking would be, hey, I'm on for the ride, and I'm going to stay on this donkey until the donkey falls apart. Which, in a sense, I do admire that. But mentally, for me, if anything, I'm trying to strike a happy balance. Nothing pisses me off more, excuse my French, but nothing irritates me more than, I mean, here's a good example. And I'm still a little bit butthurt, as the kids would say. But going back maybe a couple of months ago, I'm not sure exactly where it was. Maybe back here. No, that was September. Anyways, point being, one morning we had a big 4-hour squeeze in the S&P futures. I jumped to it. I jumped into it. I bought the calls. I did that with pretty good size. And at one point, I'm up about like $8,000 or $9,000 on that trade. Went to the gym, and long story short, it turned out to be a pretty expensive workout. I was up $9,000. I came home from the gym, and I think I had about $100 profit to my name. For me, mentally, that's pretty damaging, and it can definitely take a few days to get over that. So the happy balance I'm trying to strike between, all right, do I want to work with a target, or do I really want to milk it for everything it's got left? What I would have loved to have done that morning, and I can promise you, next time I got a $9,000 profit, I'm going to do this. Take off that 9K, put 8,000 of that in my pocket, and then take $1,000, buy another further out the money call. Right. Now I can't lose. Worst case scenario, I'm going to go home with an $8,000 profit. Best case scenario, I'm at the gym doing my 500-pound bench press. It keeps pushing, and I'm making a little bit more. I think we all got to find that happy balance of, all right, I've got a really good setup. I want to catch whatever this thing's got in the tank, while at the same time making sure if you go to the gym and the market pulls back, all of your profits don't disappear. So I would say in that regard, Tom's got a little bit more emotional strength than I do. Danny, Pavel will be about 2:30 Eastern, so about 1:30 Central. He might be a bit fashionably late, but that's usually when he comes out and rocks the microphone. So as far as BRK/B, I like it. The only context here, we've gotten a negative shift of the ATR trailing stop. Not the end of the world. Doesn't mean it can't break out and push towards 430, 440. If anything, mark up that level. And then when price gets up there, pay attention. That might be resistance, right? That might be a big brick wall. Or better yet, if they can flip it in the positive fashion, they flip that trailing stop in the favor of the bulls. Then I think that squeeze has a green light for a really nice push. So mark up the 415-ish level, we'll call it. And if they can crank it through that, I think you're off to the races. Got a 4-hour and a 15-minute squeeze as well. Hey, Orion, good question. Am I thinking about any QQQ calls in the mastery? If we get a good entry after the Fed, the market hasn't fallen apart, we're not taking off. Yeah, I'd love to look for something in that QQQ 4-hour squeeze. From another perspective, though, we're not quite long QQQ, but in a sense, we kind of are, being that we bought our Microsoft yesterday. So I kind of view that as you're doubling down on the same idea. QQQ falls apart, pretty good chance Microsoft falls apart. QQQ breaks out, pretty good chance Microsoft breaks out. So put it this way, I wouldn't chase an entry on the QQQ. I wouldn't force it. After the Fed, if the QQQ was up 2% and we never got it, I don't think I'll be too mad. I'd like to think that means Microsoft is pushing towards that 430. But yeah, you got a daily squeeze. We got a 2-day squeeze, a 4-hour and a 2-hour. After the Fed, if that lines up for a good entry, I would be mighty interested. Mighty interested indeed. But all right, y'all, I'm going to let you go here. I got to get a couple 100 milligrams of caffeine in my system here. And as far as my schedule today, I'll be on the mic in the Centrals room at 11:30 Central. And for those of y'all in the Mastery, we're live tomorrow. I might kick off our session tomorrow a bit earlier. I shall let you know. And then for the rest of you, we'll be back here tomorrow morning. Same time, same channel for another prep session. And before I let you go here, take a quick look at the cash market. Yeah, now the QQQ has a slingshot, which might help the bull's case. Let's go take a quick peek here at NVIDIA. NVIDIA heading towards 900. That's a weekly chart. I'm looking for a 4-hour. Lot of interesting 4-hour squeezes setting up. But all right, guys and gals, as always, really appreciate you kicking off your morning with me. It means a lot that you're here. Be patient today. Be disciplined. And the biggest thing to keep in mind, if you've ever had a really painful Fed day, it's not the Fed's fault. It's not Jerome Powell's fault. It's a bit of a tough pill to swallow, but it's your fault. Trade small, position size appropriately, then you can't get hurt. Get through the Fed, get through JP, and then all eyes on the 4-hour squeezes. But thank you again. Have a great day. For those of you in the Essentials room, I shall see you this afternoon, and we'll keep on keeping on. Adios.